All right, welcome back. Episode 7, the Co-op Pod. You know how it goes. It's Guru and Nas bringing you all the latest information in Web3, gaming, and esports. And today, we've got some pretty interesting stuff, very, like urgent, recently happening stuff to talk about as well. But obviously, Nas, he gave me a bit of a breakdown on it, but I think I'll allow him to jump into it. So, hey, without further ado, we've got a few things on the docket, but let's just get right into it. Joe, take it away, and let's get into our first topic here.
Yeah, thank you everyone again for being here. But someone we talked about last week, breaking as of right now, it's all happening on Twitter. Gabriel Layden, founder of Limit Break Studio and the DigiDaigaku project, apparently has just been hacked. So it's happening right now. It seems to have been a very strategic done one. So I'll break it down as best as I can understand, but this is all happening right now. And so recently, Gabriel Layden's account announced that they are doing the next set of their mint, which is now their villains. So they've done the Genesis, they've done Heroes and Spirits, and now they're adding Villains, which is supposed to be one of the larger collections, which is, I believe, 6,000. And as of, I think, a few hours ago, or a few minutes ago, the account tweeted that they're giving whitelist spots and with an actual link, villains-digidaigaku.com. And very quickly, some people were able to identify, especially shout out to Zach XBT, like the rogue investigator of the space, identified as someone he's already previously investigated. And it gives, if you sign permission on the website and connect your wallet, it gives permissions to drain your entire wallet and access to all of your NFTs and move any of the assets on it. So this is happening right now. And a very important point is it's tough to know how or exactly what has happened precisely. What has been shared online is it looks like Gabe has said on Discord that he has been SIM swapped. And we don't know if the whitelist was ever connected. The whitelist announcements in the previous days was connected to this, but it sounds like they did this right at the strategic timing where whitelists are about to be given. So yeah, this is all happening right now. Everyone is using a team effort to pretty much co-tweet. The account is blatantly denying being hacked, but it's very clear from the contract being shared by people that it is in fact a hack. So,
isn't that crazy, Joe? Like, have you ever, so just want to bring that up, sorry to interrupt you, but like, have you ever seen a hacker that's gained access to, a KOL account like this adamantly claim that it's not a hack? Like, I've never seen that before. They always just like, spam, try and get who they can, and then just like move on. This person is intentionally really like, you're right. This was meditated because he is trying or she, I'm not assuming gender, is trying so hard to make this seem legit to people. Like it's kind of scary, man. Holy.
Yeah. And now it's not just the initial tweet. Like usually, like you said, like I think we've seen a lot of high profile people get hacked, like Beeple, and a few others. But usually it's some sort of MO with a link and then it kind of like dies down. But this is vehemently denying anything. And usually they kind of drain they do a phishing link because of the popular person, but they also drain the person themselves. Yeah. This one, it seems like they're vehemently denying actively and adding new links and content. So the first one has the heroes, villains artwork, then it has like a hero artwork and doing the same thing. And it sounds like, I think we were talking right before we went on recording that other people have already been saying that they've been victimized, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, this is I've never seen anything like it where they're actively, I guess, perpetrating the scam. It's usually just clockwork. Do this, move on, right? I don't know. What do you think? Like, is this a symptom of marketing whitelists? Are we back at this being a problem? Because despite the bear, it's, Limit Break and Gabriel have built such momentum. Like we were talking about the Gurren Lagann momentum. Like, is it something like they were asking for this? Like how do you feel about what was, was there a target painted on their back because of the setup?
Well, I mean, that's 100% sure, because you just think about it. Like, I was looking at the way that this account has been, retweeting and trying to, vehemently decline being hacked, etc. It's kind of tweeting like Gabriel. You know what I mean? Like it almost feels like this person has studied to write and tweet in such a way that would make somebody think, oh, that kind of sounds like Gabriel. Like, I don't know, man. And this is one of the things, I'm not going to say it's a target, but I want to share a tweet that I saw the other day that really made me stop and think. It just shows the intricacy of the people who seriously want to come in and really shake things up and do harm. Because yes, you were just mentioning we're in a bear, but that also means that the projects that are very successful, the projects that have that kind of like, FOMO to them, are exponentially more likely to bring in success for these hackers, because people are more and more interested in trying to get a piece of that because they're desperate, right? In desperate times, people make desperate situations. And I think just to share the tweet that I had mentioned that really relates to this, actually, I was scrolling down Twitter and, like, Joe, I'm telling you, I stopped for a moment and just had to second read this. The tweet went, I fear for the near future of older generations that are not tech literate. Because you imagine right now, you get hundreds of calls a week that are just low quality fake impersonation calls that, like, you can pick it up, you immediately hang it up because you're like, yeah, okay, it's another scam. But you got to realize these calls and these, initiatives are actively getting people. They're exploiting people. They are working. That's why they continue. And this tweet went, can you imagine just how much damage is going to be caused when these people are forced into a high-tech world where most of interaction is through the digital world, and people are able to use advanced technology like deepfake face, modification and artificial intelligence to, like, learn and speak the way that they are, to pretty much impersonate a family member for, like, an older person or an elderly person, FaceTime them and pretend to be them and literally siphon funds from them. I was just like, whoa. And it really made me stop and think, seriously, things are getting very, very risky, because this same technology that we use for good can kind of be used, well, not kind of, it will be used the opposite way, right? And you look at this situation with Gabe, like, these people have clearly studied and planned this, because I don't think that the villain whitelist was a scam. Like, maybe, I bet you there's people thinking in their head, was this whole thing a scam? Like, everything
For a
coming up
second,
to
I
it?
thought that, right? I was like,
Right?
wait, how far back does this go, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. No, and I think if I can double click on two things you mentioned. Number one, I think it's a great point you mentioned about them tweeting like him, and I will fully admit, right? I obviously now think, like, I think Gabe is a marketing genius in terms of how he's built the brand, right? So for a split second, I thought, holy crap, is this a marketing play?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and I was like, you can't. I mean, obviously now I don't think so because of the people who will be victimized. But in my mind, it was like, I had a split second where I was thinking, is this a next level way of getting traction? Right? Like, is this? I come from very viral marketing, trying to, like, break the disruption type of marketing background. So in my mind, it's like, is this something where is it a villain story? Right? Like, this is a villain's thing. Like, am I, like, is it at that next level? Obviously, that's very dubious to think about, but that's how
Mm-hmm.
I'm trained to function in terms of viral marketing. And when you bring up that point, it's like, crap. Like, that's why, as evil, there's some genius to this evil, and I hate that means that people will become victims of this, right? And to the second point you mentioned, related to the elderly being victimized. What's scary about it is it's not new, but we, as now kind of like, us, doxing our age, like in our 30s, right? Are gonna get to that point, right? It's not new. Like, I went to this. I was at a speaking event a few years back, and one of the speakers was supposed to be some marketing genius, and essentially, it turned into this really bad private event because the guy basically admitted that he would do pressure marketing via email. He built a company doing pressure marketing via email in the US that targeted the elderly people, like seniors for us, like maybe our grandparents, if you think about the age, into basically buying things with their cards online using pressure email. Basically they designed the email to be pressure with large, HTML, large text with a lot of pressure. They use some of those things that would, like, I think it's, if you ever did like HTML, like HCSS with, like, it would flash things. You can
Oh,
build
I know
in
what you're
flashing
talking about.
effects.
Yeah.
And basically 30 minutes only available now. And they would pressure market and basically target senior citizens who are not, who didn't really reach email when their working years,
Mhm.
literally, right? And that was the entire business. So translating that to today, we might, or like maybe our parents, if not our grandparents, who were doing the email targeting this guy, will very well might be the exact scams who might be forced to use wallets in the next 10 years, that are digital wallets, and now be targeted by exactly what's happening here through deep fakes and FaceTime calls. And so it's extremely valid. And it only goes to show that, the further, like you said, the further technology goes, you know, it really gets used. It will really seems to be always be used for the bad things as well, right?
Always.
Yeah. Then how do you feel about this hack? Is there anything you think is there anything we can do? Like, what can people even do for this? Like, to deal with
I mean,
this?
the very first thing that you can do is the thing that everybody should do. And I can't say it enough. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Like, please, everybody, you see, Gabe posts something like this that seems perfectly suited, timing is right. It's too good to be true. Like, it really is. And just take a moment to realize that. And like, again, I'm going to tell you it. I'll tell hundreds, thousands of people it. You're still going to make the mistakes, but that's all we can really do. You need to be, critical thinking. You need to be self-aware of these type of things. Just take a moment, especially now. Like, when you are in your most desperate moments, times are tough right now. These are the times when you're going to be making mistakes like this. And these are the worst times to be making those mistakes. So that's all we really can do. We're doing a good thing. We're bringing light to it. I mean, the more people who are going to see this will definitely be able to look at similar situations in the future and go, you remember that time on the co-op pod when they told us what happened to Game Layden? Oh my goodness, can't believe I called him that. This
Actually, I love it.
Right. It's kind of funny. Actually, it went in my head, but anyway, they'll be like, yeah, no, let's we remembered that. We're not going to fall for this one. So we're doing everything we can, guys. We're putting it out there for you.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't yet follow, I really encourage anybody who's listening to this pod, to follow Zach XBT. At Zach ZACH, I believe, XBT. Yeah. I think he recently got verified. Congrats to him. Really good. Basically, like the private investigator of Web3 at the moment. And yeah, he was able to immediately identify which contract was using the draining wallet of something he's previously investigated. I 100%. I think I might have donated to his ETH at one point, his address, just because so much of what I've learned related to not opening certain links was because of the threads of the scammers that he has investigated and brought to light. So I think we can close on that topic there.
Yeah.
Next thing, again, we'll put the tweet link down below. I encourage everyone not to click the bad link, but to follow how this plays out. It'll probably be very important because it's a very good mix of NFT culture into gaming because of Limit Break, right? We'll see many games launching. It's very good. So speaking of games launching, something else brought out here, something you and I talked about briefly, and quite a few times as well over the past month or so. GameFi or blockchain gaming? Something I think we want to revisit. Why is it? There's been very heated topic related to what should Web3 gaming, what is the meme, right? What is the name? And a lot of people were fighting between play to earn, GameFi, blockchain gaming, Web3 gaming last year. And I think somebody put out right now, a lot of what's being discussed is between two things, whether it be GameFi and blockchain gaming, right? And I think Alexander Sykeout of Sky Mavis put a really, really good, in our opinion, I think I'm biased to the description, not because it's Sykeout or Axie, but just because of, I think, how it was eloquently said. We'll put the link of how Sykeout explained what he thinks the difference between GameFi and blockchain gaming is, coming out of Token 2049 in Singapore recently. And for some context, everybody, the reason I bring it up is because Max and I talk to a lot of people, and we often joke about where we use which, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Max. Before I give mine, related to where are we in the semantics and optics of GameFi and blockchain gaming for you, and all the people you talk to.
Well, I talk to a lot of startups, a lot of VC firms, and I will tell you right now, they always tend to use GameFi. I think that GameFi was something that maybe just stuck in like the greater crypto finance world potentially. But a lot of times when people bring it up, they don't actually even understand that GameFi is, an abbreviation for gamified finance, right? And they just say, oh, it's GameFi because that's just what it is. And as much as I can understand that when you're putting that intent out, they don't have the wrong idea, but a lot of times intent and results are two different things. So that's why I think it's so important that we understand the terminology. GameFi is gamified finance. That's what it is. And there are Web3 games out there that are very much GameFi, right? There are games out there like DeFi Kingdoms, I think a lot of people determine is very GameFi. I think that EtherWorks was very GameFi. Like there are a lot of Web3 game projects out there that do fit that bill. However, when you think about the greater ecosystem, it really is, even Web3 gaming doesn't quite get it, but blockchain gaming, I think, is a little bit more generalized because it is gaming with blockchain involved. That's really what it is, right? Like it is not a specific category, it's very broad. That's why I tend to use it quite a bit. But either way, the reason why I think this is something that I tend to very diplomatically correct, make sure that you get that part in, because you can't just shut somebody down and be like, oh, you're wrong. That's the wrong term. That'll never go well. Yeah. But I like to bring it up because a lot of people don't realize that the gamified finance just really doesn't give the right idea off, right? Like I think about it in regards to NFTs versus digital collectibles, which is something I think is very relevant right now because a lot of people are talking
we should
about
totally.
it.
Yeah, please go on. I love it.
Let's jump into that, right? But it's a very similar concept. You think of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, right? A lot of people have an immediate reaction, an immediate thought that comes to mind. And I'll be very honest with you, most of them have negative connotation to them. And that doesn't just mean, hey, let's just rename NFTs to digital collectibles and everything's okay. However, I think the idea of a digital collectible is just a little bit more easy for people to swallow and understand in comparison to an NFT. It also fits the bill of what a lot of being built is here because even if it is an NFT, I think that there are NFTs out there or NFT-like assets that are digital collectibles that may not even be a non-fungible token. So I think digital collectibles is a really good broad term to encompass it, and an NFT is something that I think would fall underneath. And same thing with GameFi and blockchain gaming. So that's why I want to make the differentiation. And again, Psycho mentions it, but I think the biggest thing here is that when we use GameFi and people pursue that term to understand what it is, they will, from the internet, get the right description, which is actually deceiving, or it's just not the correct explanation of what that person more than likely means. So if you tell somebody, oh yeah, I work in GameFi, and they go and Google it and they find out, oh, well, it's gamified finance, and they see all these games that are really GameFi in comparison to, blockchain gaming, like some of the games that are being built out there, they're not going to get the right idea. So that's why I myself like to make that differentiation and say, hey, no, I work in blockchain gaming. I do what I do in blockchain gaming. And when I talked to the VZ firm just recently, Joe, when we were talking, the woman I talked to was very adamant about, oh, yeah, you're into GameFi, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't mind, I'd like to just, take a moment to explain this. And she was really happy, actually. She's like, I didn't even realize that there was a difference. So, yeah, I digress. That's kind of my take on it. But, Joe, maybe you can throw a few of your thoughts in. And also, maybe touch on the NFTs versus digital collectibles side of things. I'd love to hear your take on that.
I'm not ready. Okay, I'll parse it into the two parts. So I agree. I generally tend to agree exactly with what you said and exactly what Psychout said, right? So I think the overarching, try and zoom out, like you and I have this core thesis, right? That it's all just gaming in a few years, right? But I think for the context of where we are right now, I think it makes sense, right? I think that we're now in this place where GameFi is gamified finance, and games that have blockchain in them but are not about the financial game, right? Not the monetary game, is blockchain gaming. So they have assets, they use the technology, but their focus isn't there. So it's like, I think more like, it feels like two ends of the spectrum where GameFi feels like games that focus are more of the enjoyment or the entertainment or the game part is the financial, is playing with numbers essentially or making money. Mm-hmm. And the other one is more of the gameplay. So some sort of gaming entertainment that has blockchain elements, right? So I think most games will manage their marketing narrative where they fit. And then it might not, like you said, I think the intent isn't always what's presented. Mm-hmm. And so I think most games, any blockchain game, and technically is within the spectrum of GameFi to blockchain gaming. And it is a matter of where they brand themselves. But I think all these games that have a token or NFT assets fall within the spectrum. And I like to, I don't know how to define the industry. I don't know if there's a right term. To be completely transparent, what we do is when we're talking to investors, Depending strategically, it's either we say GameFi if it just makes sense to them, because we work the full spectrum of games. And if we have an opportunity to explain the spectrum, we do. And then more of like when we're talking with communities and audiences, we prefer using blockchain gaming. That's kind of like where we think it matches. But yeah, I think I'd like it to get to a point where people talk about, oh, the GameFi aspect of the game. Oh, the asset aspect of the game, rather than, oh, the industry is GameFi, right? Like, I think it's an underlying technology to the gaming industry, and we are just at this phase where it hasn't been accepted into the larger mold. I think then, if to answer the question about NFTs and digital collectibles, I pretty much made it parallel to exactly what you said, which is the entire thing sounds like digital collectibles. Not any of them, not all of them. NFTs are a part of a type of digital collectible that you can own specifically. But there are digital collectibles that are owned on the server of the game and you can never get it back or use it. So that's how I think about it. I think that the digital collectibles is like the Trojan horse way of adding NFTs into stuff, which is
a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think the Trojan. Yeah, the historical dubious way to explain it, right? So I think obviously we talked about Reddit one time doing that, and I think today, right, within the last 24 hours, Meta just announced that now you can actually mint stuff on Instagram and on Facebook. So that's like, and if you look at the app, it says connect your wallet to digital collectibles.
Digital collectibles, yeah. By the way, they shine on your profile. They're very shiny. Yeah.
Have you done it?
Yeah, okay. I did it.
Okay, I have it because it's like for me, it's like, oh, do I want? Because I think my Instagram and my Meta, my Facebook are more like a lot more family than like friends. It's like, oh man, am I gonna?
You need a Web3 Instagram, sir. You need it. I got one.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because that's what it is. It's like a profile, right? I post them all the time. I mean, I don't know if I'm making myself sound goofy here, but I do. I like to post them. But when I saw that, I had to check it out, and I'm like, oh my god. The first thing I did was I clicked on it and I'm like, what is this shine? It makes it look so valuable. Anyway, I had to mention it.
That's more one of those like, all of us, I'm sure all of us kind of experience the space, have like, we have multiple wallets and everything, but it's like, shoot, do I want like random people, like it's part of like the transparency, like do I want people to know if they go to my .eth, which is I do some business with, like, if you see any of my assets, obviously it's clicked on my .eth, and they have any basic Etherscan knowledge. So basically, you're able to know some of the business I deal with and partnerships I deal with. Not everything, obviously, but like some of the public ones, especially that I'm comfortable putting out there. It's like, do I want people I randomly meet or friends I've met after these years who have knowledge know that I own assets like this, or I've not fully, it's like they can check my inventory and all the video games I play, right? That's like, oh, do I want them to know
there
all
you
this?
Go.
Like,
hey, I want to jump in and I want to bring something up. I know we have a docket, but I know we were keeping this docket pretty easy going. I want to bring something up that I actually think is really good to talk about because we're talking about a lot of current news and I want your thoughts on this. So you've probably heard, there's nobody in the world who hasn't heard. Let me just disregard that. Elon Musk talking about changing the verified function on Twitter, where it is a check mark is now part of Twitter Blue, so to speak. This is, again, theoretical. This hasn't been implemented, just disclaimer. But Elon had posted, the new owner of Twitter, that he doesn't agree with the Web2 flex of verified check marks. He also doesn't agree with it even being effective. I think one person in his tweet said, hey, so what, somebody can just steal my display name and have a check mark and just pretend to be me or be you? And Elon responded, well, that already happens. What are you talking about? And it really does. But anyway, what I wanted to bring up was I saw a really good response to it. And it said, hey, Elon's not on board with, making verified check marks be as valuable as they used to be before. Your Web2 flex is gone. So now I think it was Giancarlo who posted it. Maybe we'll put the tweet down below. I'll send it to you. Really interesting content creator. He's different strokes for different folks. You may not be into him, but I think he's hilarious. I like him. But anyway, he mentioned that, hey, your Web2 flex is gone. So how are you going to flex? How are you going to differentiate yourself? He goes, bet you it's going to be on chain. So he goes, make sure you're ready to flex it on chain because your check mark ain't good enough anymore. And it really made me think, and this is why I want to bring this up, Joe, because you were just talking about, do you really want people to know? Like, is it something you want to put out? And I think that's a really important part of people considering, their Web3 identity, their Web3 journey, and how they want that to be publicly viewed. I myself actually think about that a lot, Joe. Like, I have done I guess you could say cleanup of wallets or cleanup of projects. Some of them
Yeah,
being like, I guess you could say dark past. You got your hidden folder, things like that,
yeah, yeah.
where there are some things you don't want to be part of your portfolio. And yes, if you are good enough on Etherscan, you can probably find anything, but I don't think everybody's going to go through and do crazy, skims of all your transactions. But I agree with you. I think, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. What do you think? Like, how do you imagine that the future of, growing to display and promote our on chain assets, activity, collectibles, accomplishments? How do you see that kind of growing into being something that is commonplace? Or do you even think it's going to get commonplace? Like, is it going to stay niche and just be something that people like you and I do? Or do you think it'll maybe get to the point where it's more wider adopted and commonly perpetuated and displayed?
Wow, that is an excellent segue to surprise topic. I do think about it quite a bit, and I think I do it quite a bit as well because we we're very aware. You and I are public figures. We're not there are obviously a lot bigger people, but we're public figures who have been here early and have been actually building before the rise, through the rise, and even now. So I definitely think about it. I often think about it in the sense that for me personally, because I am a business owner, so there's a lot of things that I can't talk about and people we work with on the back end. Also things that I invest in, and so I've had to be a lot more smarter about am I legally allowed to say that I've invested in this company or this project and those are things that are technically viewable on chain. Some of them are early on. I didn't really understand Uscan well enough, like in terms of transparency search side, that I probably should have been doing them as well on a separate, which I do now, on things that have to be legally more compliant on a private matter side, right? So yeah, I guess my thoughts on it are I want to bring it up. Somebody explained to me what the future, and so it's not my credit, right? That there has to be a way to do verifiable on chain without giving the entire identity because people like who come from countries that have a lot of security compromises, technically like frontier markets, even where I'm from, like the Philippines, right? Those are issues, right? And somebody explained that the way that's going to be the future are Zk rollups. So people who don't know what they are, those are zero knowledge rollups, so things that are multiple think side chains, or I don't want to butcher the technicalities, but Zk rollups mean zero knowledge. So essentially, you're able to prove through multiple layers ownership of a certain asset without having to expose exactly the base layer. That's how I understand the Polygon Zk rollups kind of like work. And supposedly, the layman's explanation was that you can prove ownership of something without having to explicitly expose a wallet. That is what I understand. I don't know exactly what that means in UI, but it being on chain supposedly does that. So I think that's where it'll go eventually. That there will be a way to verify ownership items on chain, without having to manually check Etherscan, and without having to find all the information. I think that's the future. I think that is a need, right? But I definitely fall under the preference of, because those private things are why DeFi happened because of the existing system, right? So that's the future. I think there will be a way, but I definitely prefer the fully transparent version. I just haven't myself figured out the exact right way to do it. For the sake, just for in terms of personal security, my family, people I love, and it's scary, right? Like don't you feel sometimes scared
100%.
about what people know that you own or what you're able to, what access to assets you have? Like I really want to get comfortable with it, but some part of me also is nervous, and I try to be more deliberate now about how to build that foundation, like you said, about multiple
Mhm.
wallets and nothing other than just, again, I think a lot of people. I'm not sure about how I feel about other people. I've seen people change. A lot of people change based on you know when they see you and how much or what you have. And
100%. I
I
mean,
don't know if I'm ready for that kind of, like, not, again, I'm not crazy. I'm not filthy rich, but just even who you're associated with because of assets you own
mhm.
becomes an issue, and that's me. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? That's kind of like where I stand in the spectrum of then the future and trying to trying to do it now. How about you?
Well, I will have to say that was a very like genuine explanation, and I think that you brought up some really good stuff. I have the pleasure of living in Canada. It's a very, very safe country. So seldom do I have to worry about some of the things that you mentioned that have been brought to light to me. I have friends and contacts from around the world, and some of my very successful crypto contacts who live in different areas tell me straight up, like one of my close friends was even afraid to give me his Instagram because he says, "Hey, I can't let anybody get word that I do anything with crypto because it'll put a target on my back and like I may be attacked in my country." And I was just like, "Whoa, okay!" Like real eye opener moment for me. And I am very privileged to live in a safer place like Canada. So like that is one thing I like that you bring up because the security is one thing. And ZK rollups, I like that you brought that up too. Actually, there's been so much development work done on ZK rollups that like even just that one application you mentioned is like it's the tip of the iceberg. There's so much people are doing with it. They're using it to like create, like quasi securely backed layer one to ZK rollup assets to like ease transaction fees, like so many crazy things. But I would love to see something happen that could kind of hide that base layer from the public eye, but still perpetuate ownership. Because I agree with you. Like, I don't have anything to hide on my public wallet. I do have specific wallets. Not that I'm doing anything shady, but just things, again, like you mentioned, things need to be secure. And I do have a couple wallets for that. A lot of them are usually centralized wallets, I'm not going to lie, because those are the ones that tend to be the hardest to actually track, like
Yeah.
through Binance, etc. It's hard to track what I do on Binance, guys. Like, I'm just going to be straight with you. It is. But I do think that having something that could help secure that so that I could showcase this and I could share this without people being able to just even have the thought in their mind to go deeper and plan something potentially devious, right? Like it's great. It's great to be able to have that as an option. But I personally think there will be a lot of things, especially maybe on the SBT side, that could be even
Mm,
just run through custodial, right? Like it might not even be something that you have to link to, your full history on the blockchain, but might just be something that you have linked to a database that you interact in regularly. Like think of Ronin, but everything on Ronin that I can just showcase in a secure manner through like their custodial system that might introduce ZK rollup technology or something of the sort that allows me to showcase it and have it verified, but not actually give out the information that allows people to go in and like trace and sleuth. We're talking about Zach. Let's talk about it sleuthing through,
Sleuth,
right?
that's the
Um,
one. Yeah.
and that's what I think would be really nice because I do agree there are times, like even when I connected my wallet, I connected my hot wallet, by the way, and I don't put
Yeah.
really valuable NFTs in there. That's why I'm comfortable doing that. I just have some of my random like art stuff. I'm a big NFT art collector, things like that I can showcase. That's what I'm pretty much sharing on my Instagram. It's not like my waifu NFTs or anything crazy like that. But so that's why I feel comfortable with it. But even just looking at it from a security point of view, like I should not have to, sign a signature that gives access to my wallet to be able to showcase these. That alone just feels like a security risk, and a lot of people won't do it. So I do think that the user interface and the cybersecurity is something that requires a lot of work before we see it become wider adoption. But I personally think a day will come when people they have a very strong sense of pride generally, the same way we see some people now. Like you can see it in some projects, right? People who hold a Daigaku Genesis, people who hold a really valuable Azuki, like a Spirit Azuki, people who hold a Gold Ape, like this is a sense of pride. And even if you're just, some lucky gambling fool who minted an ape when it was a couple $100s, it's still a sense of pride that you have this asset. And I think that that'll be
Yeah.
something that we see people do because just it's people, right? People like their nice cars, they like their nice clothes, they like their nice watches, they like that, and they're going to showcase it. And I think that providing a good platform for that, social media is going to be on it because they know, like, Meta's not stupid, Twitter's not stupid. They know that that's going to be a demand. Look at Twitter Blue with NFT PFPs, Instagram introducing the digital collectibles, platform vertical. They know it's there and they know people want to show them off. So they're just preparing it. And then I think once they refine it out, we're going to see people using it a lot. I personally think we will. We may even see some marketplaces associated with it. Imagine like an Instagram marketplace where you could showcase and even transact some of your work as an artist, because that is a place that a lot of artists have seen a lot of success on by naturally posting their art and their work and gaining traction with the community. And if they could then translate that into something that could monetize, I'm spitballing here, but I think it could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
something,
No.
and honestly, in the near future here. But I don't want to take over the whole podcast with that
No.
topic.
I definitely want to. I think I have a way to bring it back to gaming.
Okay,
I definitely do.
run with it.
So, what if I are my business partners. So shout out to Rargel or Lars. He, we surmise a lot because we obviously work in the content space, and we often talk about where is this technology taking content and people. And he had this really really good insight which we wrote down and we're using for like our wrapping up our business planning sessions, going into the next couple of years. And he said that something to the effect of, I don't want to butcher it, but this is the something to this effect. With all this technology just getting better, he said that as technology is getting better, we find that more of the core drive is actually becoming about self-expression, right? Like all of this, like when we bring out the NFTs and the PFPs, there's so much of what we do as a content, trying to work on the back end for where content needs to live and grow, and a lot of the human motivation of where things convert has seemed like in gaming. I always say 50% of gaming is vanity because we obsess about skins, and half the time everything is vanity. It's the achievements you get through badges or your account, it's the assets, it's the items you get, it's displaying it to your friends, right? And I think PFPs and NFTs and verification, like we're talking about, having the white check mark is, blue check marks are, I think conventionally, I guess the negative spectrum, people call it the status. But what we find is that it seems like a lot of this becomes the technology. As technology gets better, we have, I guess, maybe humans have to do a little bit less of the actual manual work. A lot of motivation becomes about self-expression, and obviously that's a huge motivation in gaming, right? And like you said, displaying all of this, I think the adoption comes because of the self-expression owning something has, right? Like it's not anymore having the car in a digital space. How many people do you actually? How many people? Just even for you, Max. Like how many people of your friends and people you know, their actual car you get to see, if they don't actually like post it on. And if you post it, sometimes it's not very classy. Like they'd be posting your, I don't know, your sports car on Instagram. But I feel like some part of this world will feel a little less tacky if you if you have your PFP that's worth about something or means something to you on Instagram. So I think the self-expression is how I want to bring. It's such a huge part of gaming seems to be self-expression. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know we're completely off on tangent here, but like, what are your thoughts on that before we?
Well, first things first, Chat and Joe, please don't scroll through my Instagram. I'm a big car guy. I used to work in the industry. There's a lot of pictures of my car on there.
No, okay, no, look, no,
No. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No,
but
what's funny is my wife loves cars. I don't like cars because
really,
no, again, super tangent, but this I guess the generation kind of thing, right? Or my dad loves cars. My dad was like a mechanic. He worked as a mechanic as his first job, right? And he always hated that I was not into cars because I was like, but I love PCs, so I was built PCs and stuff. Right? It's not the same thing, but it's like, and he couldn't understand. I was like, Dad, just think about it this way: the way you tinker with your car is the way I feel about building PCs. Right? That is my like whatever judgment I put on people who put cars. I would be a type of person who would post me fixing up PC with like wanting water cooling and shit. And that's my like
I
personal
respect
thing.
that.
But these things you can't do online without literally posting a physical picture.
100%.
Right. And anyway, so that's my point about the cars and everything, and so I guess I gotta go visit you now and ride some of your nice cars, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll take you for a ride, and you can also come check out my nice PC because I understand both sides. I'm a huge PC guy too. I also have pictures of my PCs because I've built plenty on my Instagram.
PC Master Race. Let's go.
Oh, I love it. I've been for a while. But anyway, I just want to quickly touch on that point, and then we'll jump on to something else. But I think you 100% hit the nail right on the head there, where it is that expression, right? And when we live in a world, I refer to this as a digitally expanded consciousness. Let me explain that really quick for the people who don't understand. So for the longest time, humans were natural creatures. Our consciousness lives in our body. It lives in our mind. It lives in whatever you want to call the vessel that we exist in. But for decades now, we have lived in a very technological world. And it's a technological world that gives us so much freedom and so much opportunity that we have actually become who we are today as a result of a lot of our interactions online in the internet, whether it be through gaming, through social forums, whatever it might be. And I refer to this as a digitally expanded consciousness because it's like our consciousness has expanded into our digital body, our digital self. So it's really interesting you bring that up because I agree. I think that's where this verge, this like obsession with digital collectibles and assets came from. Is that as humans, we really want, like, we hunger for that recognition, that verification, that satisfaction, that expression to be on online where we know millions of other people exist very heavily and very significantly, and we want to be able to connect with those people and even prove the same way that when I go and pick you up, like if you ever came to Vancouver and I went and picked you up in my Audi and you would say, "Hey, this is a nice car. You know, I don't like cars, guru, but nice car." And I would get that satisfaction. It's the same thing that people feel online with digital expression, digital collectibles. So it makes complete sense to me. And I like that you bring it up. So yeah, just not much more to say there besides really, really good way of bringing it up. And I think, yeah, it hits so close to the human self that it all makes sense. And I think we're just going to see it more and more become like more commonplace and more accepted as the years go by, the technology gets better and the terminology gets a little bit more accepted.
Appreciate it. No, I'm going to start using the self-expression. Again, shout out to Argo for that. But I really feel like it becomes more obvious as a gamer because we're used to having items and avatars. I think that's the point there. But okay, we will move on. Other big news. I'd love to get your thoughts on her. ImmutableX announced that their GameStop Marketplace is officially live on ImmutableX. I think it's powered by Starkware, something that basically companies can use now for all. I think I don't want to butcher it, but I think I understand it's similar to Stardust, which is basically solves on-chain technology. But I think ImmutableX is absolutely on a tear, it seems like, right? At least in the game, especially obviously they focus on gaming, them having GameStops. Because I'm not from the US and everything, GameStop as a story is something that I've been more watched as more of a consumer side in its storyline across, stocks and everything. But I think that them working with ImmutableX seems to me like a huge bridging, I think, of the brands, right? Very, very brick and mortar to not even just digital, straight to like blockchain focused gaming chain, ImmutableX. So you can check out the link, but they essentially, someone we know, Kagi, has put as a video also. I think he's partnered with to explain how to make the wallet. So they have their own wallet, which GameStop announced previously. And you can already see like in the website, there's a coming soon of all the games that are being built on Immutable, like Play Ember Sword, Guild of Guardians, Illuvium as well is there. And basically you'll be able to buy all of the NFTs with a familiar brand like GameStop, right? So I think it's very interesting because people obviously who are not maybe into Web2 gaming are familiar with GameStop and have some respect or investments in the brand. And now basically they'll be able to buy the in-game items and get exposure to the games straight on GameStop's distribution platforms from it. I think it's big. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this just another drop in the ocean of all the people making moves, or is this a little bit bigger? You think it'll move the needle forward or cast a dent on what we're trying to do here? How do you feel about this?
Well, first off, IMX and like the Polygon biz dev team are just, my goodness, these guys don't sleep. My God, like shout out. I do think that GameStop NFT needs to rebrand that name already. It's just such a mouthful. It doesn't work good. But other than that, I do agree. I think, where we're at right now, it's a very build focus. And I think that there is a positive return that comes out of this so long as things do proceed as expected. And obviously people feel a little bit more of a branded respect due to the fact that there's the association. Like I couldn't see it being a negative thing, assuming that they continue to deliver, which they have been showing they are consistently delivering, at least as far as expansion and scaling goes. So yeah, I think it could definitely be a good thing. I think one of the things that I'm interested to see here is exactly where the spectrum of value proposition that they expect to give to their user base or give to their to their new acquisition demographic comes from this partnership, because it does seem pretty standardized. There's just the branding officiation comes with it, but there hasn't been a lot announced on exactly what the roadmap of that partnership looks like going forward, other than just there's the association of the GameStop chain, right, or the GameStop NFT chain. And I think that that's going to be where I potentially see some value coming out of it. But other than that, still shout out to these guys. That every single week it feels, if not multiple times a week, I'm getting announcements of like IMX making a new move, Polygon making a new move. Like Man, the grass doesn't grow underneath these guys' feet. So yeah, that's what I got to say on it. I think there's not a whole lot to say as far as what we know right now, but I think in the coming weeks or months, we're probably going to see some more actually announced on, what the future is going to look like for them, and then we can start to scrutinize because I'm sure it won't be perfect, but I do think that they have some things planned, and I'm excited to see what they want to put out.
Yeah, I love how you put that. I think it's a very honest take. Like, obviously you see these two big brands, GameStop and obviously ImmutableX. It's like, oh wow, huge. But I think, to your credit, I think you were very fair. Like, what does it actually do, right? Like, if GameStop's a big name, IMX, and for those of us in the space, which is still very small, is a big name. But outside of GameStop's existing distribution, like, where does the conversion really even happen? Is it because let's say Guild of Guardians gets put in the newsletter of GameStop and their social media, and does that actually make people find the game on launch and play? Yeah, I think it's definitely newsworthy for us in the one side, but you're right. Like, we actually have no idea. It's hard to know if it will mean anything for the actual adopt. I mean, will it do much
Yeah,
in terms of the
exactly.
adoption? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a fair way to put it. There's not much more to say there. Okay, last thing on the docket. We talk about questing a lot. I'm a little biased on knowing these things. Community Gaming released their questing system. So if anyone doesn't know, Community Gaming is a tournament platform that has automated transactions for paying out anybody who wins tournaments, and organizers can organize on the platform all types of formats across Web3 games and non-Web3 or blockchain-related games. They recently launched their questing system. So I want to talk about this because I'd love to get your thoughts. Essentially, they partner with creators to create all types of tournaments for people joining to give distribution. But how it works is that you go onto their platform. They have a non-custodial wallet, and you can collect your own MetaMask, I believe. All gas fees, I think, on Polygon and BNB chain are, and I think even Ronin might even be covered if you connect your wallet. So if you win a tournament, you cash out, you don't pay any gas, which is great. But more importantly, how the quest system works is I think they have normal things like daily login. I think if you log in every day, you get like 0.5 USDC or something. And then they essentially reward you for regularly competing. So you now have a quest system where I believe if you do a tournament every week, you get some rewards, or consecutive weeks. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this. We've never seen something like this again. We do many types of quests and concepts now as guilds and things, but now it's like a greater. It feels like a zoom out on consistency of competing outside of. Maybe technically you could get rewards for not competing in one game only consistently.
Yeah, no,
People
you do get rewards based on your exposure to different games. That's why they've been
Oh,
doing
really?
quite a few. Yep, like there are
Oh,
other ones you get. So, quick disclaimer,
perfect.
because I got to put
Go,
this
go.
out here. I just so you know as well, I obviously have community members that work with community gaming. I'm associated and partnered with them quite closely, so just want to bring that out. I think you are as well. We're very well connected to
Yes,
community
my
gaming.
bad. Yes, we know
However,
them very well.
they are a very big, like a very, very big entity in the space right now. And I'd have to say that community gaming is doing some of the most work for Web3 esports that I see of anybody else doing, right? So like shout out to community gaming. But yeah, I wanted to bring that in. So if you have anything else you want to add on before I jump in, Joe, go ahead. But I was like, hey, we got to put this disclaimer out because we're both like
No,
super
you're right.
connected to CG.
Correct. Yes, we're very close with them, but yeah, if anyone who doesn't know, I'll plug it real quick. I do have I'm very passionate about questing and Web3 gaming, and so I have a thread of it, and I haven't added this yet, but I will. But yes, to be completely fair, we work quite very closely with community gaming. Not only is our platform as a partner, they've sponsored some of our events, but this is purely their launch about their launch on the questing side. Yeah, go on. Have at it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do. So, I think this is amazing. Personally, I actually just had my first real interaction with community gaming just a little while ago as a player. I decided to compete in a couple of tournaments. We unfortunately didn't win any of them. I guess I just don't have what it takes anymore. But I still ended up competing, and I will say that it was a very nice experience. Like even just the fact that everything is automated, payouts are on chain, verified through smart contracts, so there is guaranteed payouts coming through because it's loaded beforehand. Like as somebody who was in esports a long time ago, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Joe, people ghosting and people, I'm going to call it rugging on, on like actual tournament prize pools was a real thing. And like there was a certain point in time when it was a serious issue actually, where people were not getting paid. They were just like, people were taking sponsored money, potentially even stealing it, offshoring it, or people were just lying about the prize pool altogether. And they were just running the event and getting the exposure and, getting paid for it. And it was a big issue. So I love that this is all, verified through smart contracts. I think this is one of my favorite things that they've introduced. But then the questing comes up, and honestly, I was so excited. It got me feeling like I went on there and started looking at upcoming tournaments, and I'm like, hey, I want to join a couple of these because like it's not even that I need that little bit of extra money coming from it, but just as we said before, there's that sense of accomplishment that comes from completing these quests. It gives you direction too, and direction is good. As somebody who runs an esports team, I can tell you right now, the thing that people need most, especially in things like competitive gaming, they really need direction. Like I spend a lot of my time sometimes literally just being there to give people direction or even reminding them of direction. Some of my esports players, they'll message me and they'll be like, hey, I like, I'm having a really rough time. This is happening, or I lost this tournament and I just feel like shit. I think I might quit. And I'm like, yo, one-on-one time. Like, let's get together. What's going on? I remind them of the vision. I remind them of the direction. I maybe even, bring up a tournament, get them enrolled in it. Just give them that feeling of like, here, this comes next, right? And I think this is good because in an esports setting, if the platform itself is kind of providing this to a degree, then this helps bring in retail competitors, retail players. Because yes, when you have a whole team, when you have a guild to be there, a guild leader, or an esports manager, like an actual GM, it's a little bit easier. However, I think that with Web3 gaming, we're really wanting to open up the space to be more than just that. You need to have some retail players involved. Man, that's how some of the best players get known, right? Like, why have scouting grounds when you can just make the tournament base itself a really good scouting ground? So I love it. Yes. I think it's great moves. And for one, I know I already signed up for a couple of tournaments. So like, I'm going to be in there. I'm going to be playing. So it worked on me. I'm sure it's working on a lot of other people.
That's an excellent point. I never thought about putting it that way. Like, it is a scouting ground. I think a lot of tournaments technically are formally scouting grounds. And because coming from working on multiple Web 2 and Web 3 games, like we talked to community gaming at one point, and I'm probably free to say this. Like, we wish, and actually many partners, like we wish there was a way on chain, which I think a lot of people are doing now with SBTs, to really track people's performance on chain. But if you're able to, how do I imagine this? People have asked us for scouting good players for card games. Not like for some guilds want essentially us to help spot or scout XN card players because a lot of NFT games are card based, the very early ones, and it's very hard to actually do. Right? We have some very gifted people like yourself. I think Logic is one of the best people who finds really good talent. Elazul as well of MMG and a few others, right? But I think that. Imagine if there was a way on community gaming I could see how diligent a player competes. Like, I know through their SBTs or through the questing system that they have actually achieved, 52-week streak of playing tournaments on community gaming. And then you'll know, like, this guy with little external motivation is a motivated competitor, right? So I think, like you said, I never even thought about that. A lot of it is a head game. Like, if you get one tournament, you're like, ugh, I lost, or I didn't do well. Your motivation goes down. But if you have some guiding force that says, if I compete every week for a month, I get some reward, right? It's like, it might be the difference between somebody, honing a skill to be highly competitive and somebody just like walking away.
100%.
I never thought about, like, I think you put it with like a training ground or a scouting ground. That's like an excellent, in my opinion, explanation of what questing for community gaming could do for the platform.
Spoken from experience, man. I'm telling you, post-loss tournament depression is potentially some of the worst thing I've ever felt in my life as a player. Like, it's rough, and it does leave you feeling like if you didn't have somebody there to help give you some guidance, like it's a downward spiral. So like, I just speak from experience. Like it's the reality of things, right? And hey, any aspiring competitor out there, hear it from me, like firsthand. It happens, right? So maybe this, as you said, Joe, maybe this will help because consistency is a big thing. Like, you got to keep it up. You're not going to win every tournament, and you're especially not going to win the tournaments you start playing usually, because even just Could be the best player in the world, man, but tournament jitters is a thing. The only way to get rid of them is to get conditioned to it. So yeah, no, I'm on board with it. I think it's great. And shout out to CG again. Like I know I might be partnered with them and have community members who work with them, but I gotta say they're really a backbone right now for Web3 esports. They're doing a lot in the space, and I'm excited to see where they go as a community and as a brand, because I think as we see the next cycle come into fruition, like where's CG going to be in that? Like I'm really keeping my eyes on them. I think they're doing a lot of good. So I'm happy to be connected with them still, and I'm excited to see where they go and be a part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, maybe we should. Okay, I'll leave this one at a time, but definitely we can contact them. Maybe we should have them on the show about their vision of the space.
I love it.
Chris, the CEO is I probably could say that he's an advisor. I consider him a friend and an advisor for what we do. And I think definitely they would have a really good idea, because they are, like you said, they're a backbone. Like I think maybe people might not see how much of a backbone they are, of people who are building a competitive vertical in their game have probably talked to CG. Like there's no way they haven't, right? So I think that's an important one. But yeah, I don't want to talk. I think overdo it on the community gaming questions. I just wanted to put it out there. But I think the point about it being a scouting ground was excellent. And yeah, to be honest, like I know we're nothing else in the docket, but I'm still not over. I'm still getting notifications about the Gabriel Layden hack at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we can wrap it up there. I think I encourage everyone to kind of check it out and follow that. But yeah, if you could, anything you want to add, Max, before we close it out?
No, let's just close it out. Actually, I got to add the most important thing, because if you're still here right now and you haven't liked the video and you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the news that we put out every single week. Also follow us on Twitter if you haven't yet, and follow both myself and Nas as well. We're always putting things out on Twitter. Took a couple-day break, but don't worry, I regularly post about good stuff. So yes, once again, like and subscribe. Let us know down below what you thought about the episode, and I hope you guys have been enjoying it. We're keeping up with this. We don't plan on letting the steam roll out. We got a couple of big guests that we want to bring on soon, so we have nothing but just more exciting episodes ahead. And yeah, we'll just wrap it up with that. Thank you all once again for tuning in, and until next time.